It is exactly 4:34 a.m. on January 9th, 2026. Deep inside the Russian interior, hundreds of miles from the bleeding front lines of the Donbas, a secret airfield lies buried under the heavy silence of a winter night. This is not a frontline base. This is a sanctuary. And inside that sanctuary, nearly 200 Russian airmen are asleep, unaware that, in the next 10 minutes, history is about to break through their gates. It is a facility designated for final testing, certification, and outfitting of Russia's strategic nuclear assets. To the Russian Air Force, this tarmac is the safest place on Earth. A deep rear location protected by distance, secrecy, and the assumption that the enemy cannot reach this far. The airfield is bathed in the harsh, sterile glow of sodium floodlights. The air is still. The radars on the perimeter are spinning, scanning the high altitude for NATO bombers or cruise missiles. The operators are looking up, searching the stratosphere, but they are looking in the wrong direction, because the real threat is not coming from the clouds. It is moving just 6 feet above the frozen grass. Sitting on the main apron, isolated and majestic, is the target. It is a factory-fresh Tu-160M White Swan. This is the largest and heaviest combat aircraft, the fastest bomber now in use. It is a nuclear-capable Leviathan with variable sweep wings, designed to carry the apocalypse at Mach 2. This specific airframe has 0 flight hours. It is still in the final integration phase, gleaming white, untarnished by war. It is a symbol of Russian imperial power worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And right now, it is sitting completely exposed. At this hour, the base security is complacent. The shifts are changing. The guards are huddled in heated booths, drinking tea, trusting the layered air defense network to do its job. They do not see the movement in the tall grass near the taxiways. Minutes before any alarm is raised, a swarm of small, black shapes rises from the perimeter fence. These are not standard reconnaissance drones. These are strike FPVs, modified for nap-of-the-earth flight. They glide between the hangars, using the base's own infrastructure as a shield against radar. They are not here to observe. They are here to isolate the target. At 4:40 a.m., the operation begins not with a bang, but with a series of surgical cuts. The first wave of drones does not strike the bomber. Hitting the bomber now would trigger a massive response. Instead, they target the environment. Several FPV drones peel off and dive toward the side aprons. Impact. Explosions rip through the auxiliary aircraft. IL-76 transport planes and fuel tankers, parked on the periphery. These are non-strategic targets, chosen carefully. When they burn, they create walls of black smoke and confusion. They block the taxiways. They draw the fire crews away from the main ramp. Simultaneously, a second wave of drones hits the nervous system of the base. They strike the short-range air defense elements, the Tor M2 units, and the approach radars. They hit the local communications hubs. The goal isn't to level the base. It is to create controlled chaos. Inside the control tower, the screens flicker. Reports of fires and explosions flood the lines, but they are scattered and incoherent. Is it sabotage? Is it a technical accident? Is it a fuel leak? To the operators, these look like isolated crises. They do not see the pattern yet. Every hit has a function. Kill visibility, delay decision-making, shatter the ability to coordinate a response. At 4:47 a.m., the operation moves into its open phase. Multiple strike drones emerge from the darkness, flying low between the fuel tanks. Their routes have been calculated to the meter to maximize surprise. But not all of them make it. One drone is shot down by a panicked guard firing wildly into the air. Another slams into a hangar wall after losing signal in the interference. The Ukrainians are bleeding machines, losing assets by the second. But the pattern still holds. Every lost drone costs time. And time, inside an enemy base, is measured in seconds before someone gets a clear shot. In less than 2 minutes, the surviving drones dismantle the base's response capability. They hit the light transport vehicles used by security teams. They hit the training aircraft parked near the runway thresholds. Debris scatters across the tarmac. The runways are partially blocked by burning wreckage. Logistical chaos is instant. The fire trucks are trapped. The security jeeps are burning. The base commander is shouting into a radio that is jammed with static. During all this violence, the Tu-160 White Swan remains untouched. It sits there in the center of the storm, white and pristine, seemingly invincible. To the confused Russian defenders, it looks like the enemy has missed the most important target. They think the Ukrainians are incompetent. They are wrong. The bomber hasn't been missed. It has been saved. It is the final objective. Everything else, the fires, the smoke, the destroyed radars, is just clearing the board for the main piece. At 4:52 a.m., the noose tightens. The drones hit the critical infrastructure, the main power station, and the backup generator farm. Boom. The airfield lights flicker and die. The floodlights cutting through the darkness are extinguished. The entire zone plunges into absolute heavy darkness. The only light comes from the burning wrecks of the transport planes. Internal communications become unstable. The digital network goes down. Every second without clear intel amplifies the panic. The Russian soldiers are blind, deaf, and leaderless. They are firing wild shots into the dark, terrified of shadows. At 4:57 a.m., the area around the main hangar, the nest of the White Swan, is cleared. Surgical strikes neutralize the specific security teams guarding the bomber's perimeter. Vehicles are disabled with precise hits to the engine blocks. Guards are pinned down by suppression charges. By this stage, a coordinated Russian response is impossible. The base has ceased to be a military installation. It is a collection of isolated survivors trying to figure out if they are under air attack or a ground invasion. At 5 a.m., the final eye is blinded. An FPV drone scores a direct hit on the optical surveillance tower covering the Tu-160 platform. On the monitors in the emergency command center, the bomber simply vanishes. 1 second it is there, illuminated by the firelight. The next, the screen is static. Not because the plane moved, but because the eyes are gone. The Russian command is now completely blind to the most valuable asset on the airfield. They assume the bomber is safe because no one is shooting at it. At 5:06 a.m., the operation reaches its climax. The base has lost all initiative. There have been no dogfights, no long-range missiles, just small, fast drones hitting exactly where the system was never designed to defend. While the base is in shambles, the Tu-160 sits isolated in a bubble of darkness. And then, the real operation begins. At 5:11 a.m., out of the smoke and shadows, an unmarked convoy pulls up to the platform using a side service route. They are driving Russian-made trucks. They are wearing uniforms that blend in. Because the verification systems are down, the biometric locks are dead, and the checkpoints are unmanned or destroyed, the team reaches the bomber unchallenged. They are not a demolition team. They are not carrying explosives to blow the plane up. They are carrying start carts. This is the most audacious moment of the war. The team jumps out. There is no hesitation. They know exactly what they are doing. They move with the muscle memory of men who have spent thousands of hours training for this specific minute. They open the correct avionics panels. They bypass the digital security locks. They weren't guessing. Weeks earlier, Ukrainian cyber units had implanted a maintenance backdoor into the aircraft's mission computer during a routine software update. The bomber had already been unlocked. It just didn't know it yet. The Russians had trusted their own maintenance network. That trust was the real vulnerability. This is the critical moment. A Tu-160 is not a Toyota. You cannot just hotwire it. It is a strategic bomber with complex multi-stage startup protocols. It usually takes a ground crew of 20 people an hour to prep for flight. These men have minutes. One mistake, one tripped sensor, one failed hydraulic check, and the mission ends in a firefight on the tarmac. Inside the cockpit, the pilot, A man who likely trained on this very airframe or one just like it starts flipping switches. The sequence is intricate. They skipped 70% of the safety checks. No full navigation alignment. No redundant hydraulic verification. The aircraft would fly, but it would be flying on the edge of disaster. He is fighting the machine's safety protocols. He is hacking the plane's brain while sitting in the pilot's seat. At 5:16 a.m., the onboard systems begin to show life. It isn't a full activation yet, just the flicker of the instrument panels, the hum of the auxiliary power unit. To a casual observer amidst the chaos of the burning base, the sound of one more turbine whining might go unnoticed. But to anyone who knows what to look for, the alarm bells should have been deafening. The beast is waking up. The Russian base commander, trying to organize a defense against the drone swarm, hears a sound that freezes his blood. It isn't an explosion. It is the low, rising whine of an NK-32 turbofan engine starting to spool. He looks toward the darkness of the main ramp. He sees the navigation lights of the white Swan flicker on. He realizes, with a horror that stops his heart, that the enemy isn't trying to destroy the bomber. They are stealing it. The ground team disconnects the power cards. The chocks are pulled. The four massive engines of the Tu-160 roar to life, blowing snow and debris across the tarmac. The sound drowns out the sirens. It drowns out the gunfire. The giant aircraft, the pride of the Russian nuclear triad, begins to taxi. It pushes through the debris. It ignores the control tower. It lines up on the runway, illuminated only by the fires burning on either side. This is impossible. It is madness. But as the pilot pushes the throttles forward, engaging the afterburners, four pillars of blue fire erupt from the back of the jet. Runway fire crews try to cross the tarmac. A burning fuel truck explodes, lighting the jet in orange fire as if the aircraft itself is on trial. The white Swan accelerates. It tears down the damaged runway, bouncing over the cracks, racing against the response teams that are finally realizing what is happening. A desperate Russian officer fires a man-pads from the taxiway. The missile streaks upward, missing the tail by meters. Small arms fire rattles against the fuselage. The bomber is not escaping clean. It is escaping by inches. At 170 miles per hour, the nose lifts. The Tu-160 claws its way into the air, banking hard into the darkness, vanishing into the night sky before a single surface-to-air missile can be locked. The base is left in silence and ruin. The Russians have not just lost a base. They have not just lost face. They have lost a strategic nuclear bomber to a team of ghosts who walked in the front door. What happened at 5:16 a.m. on January 9th will be studied in military academies for the next many years. It was the moment when the impossible became reality. Ukraine didn't just break the Russian military, they stole its soul. And this wasn't just a military victory, it was a warning to every air force on Earth. If you can steal the most protected bomber in Russia, nothing is truly safe anymore. If you want to understand how this war is changing the rules of combat, subscribe, because the next battlefield won't be a map, it will be a system.